All right, it's a beautiful beach day. I'm Dan in the sand, and today I'm going to take you on an adventure. How to build a sandcastle. So come along with me today as we enjoy this beautiful beach and build a sandcastle. So, the first part in building a sandcastle is a foundation. You need to have a good foundation, because if you're just building it on soft sand, your sandcastle could just fall over. So what we're going to do now is prepare a foundation for our sandcastle. What I like to do is build a pile. So I'll just use my little shovel here, build a pile of sand. All right, now we got our pile of sand. But the thing about sandcastles is they weigh a lot. Some sandcastles can weigh thousands of pounds. The sandcastle today is going to weigh about 100 pounds. And it's crazy, we're not even going to be taller than this, and we're going to have a 100-pound sandcastle. So, as you can see, this is just loose, soft sand. We need to properly prepare our foundation before we can continue on building our sandcastle. So, an important thing I like to do, make a volcano. Who doesn't love a volcano? All right, now that we got our volcano, next important step, we're gonna need some water to add some strength. All right, so we'll go ahead and fill this hole in with some water. Can never have too much water. Water's like glue in a sandcastle. Then we'll push some of this dry sand in there to make sure it's all good and mixed up. There we go. You can also use your foot while the pile's nice and wet. You can tamp it with your foot. It's not about stomping on the sand, it's just like a subtle clap with your foot. And now you can see we have a nice solid foundation to build our sandcastle off of. Now, I'd like to introduce you to the form. As you can see, it's just a bottomless bucket. So this makes building sandcastles very simple. So all you need is a bottomless bucket, and this works for any size bucket. You can see, even I have a smaller one here, okay? Any size bucket, and I'll show you how to make that in a second. Now, one thing you're gonna notice is you're not gonna be sandcastle successful this way. Even though the bucket is the proper way in the sand, it's actually the smaller end on the bottom and the bigger end on the top. We're trying to take this off. So we're gonna flip it over to have that big end on the bottom and that little end on the top. So it pops off there nice and easy. Okay, so now we're ready to start building our sandcastle. We got a good solid foundation. Our form is in place. Let's go. So the first thing I'm going to do is put some dry sand in here. I'm not going for a lot of dry sand. As you can see, now that we got our soft dry sand in here, the next and most important step to a sandcastle is water. Water is like your glue. This is going to apply to every beach you go to. Now, some beaches use drastically less water than our beach does. So you're gonna see, I'm gonna use a substantial amount of water today because it's really like the bonding agent between each sand granule for us. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour in a whole little bucket of water. And as you can see, you want it really soupy. See how it's nice and soupy? Now, while it's soupy, we're gonna reach in and mix it up because we don't want any dry sand. Now that it's all mixed, you can see the water disappear. Worst case scenario, you want to make sure there's always water in there. Now that we have water in there again, what we're going to do is tap on the outside. You only want to tap it for about 10 to 15 seconds. Once you get it completely tapped, we're ready to move on to our next layer. There's still water in there. That's good. That's an A+ in sandcastles. You always want there to be a little water in there in between each layer, okay? So now we're gonna go ahead and go on to the next layer, and we're just gonna add in a little bit more dry sand. All right, we got a nice thick layer of dry sand. Next ingredient, water. And you can see where we're going with this. We're just gonna keep continuing over and over until we reach the top. Now I'm gonna reach in and mix it up because we don't want any dry sand, right? That's why we mix it up, no dry sand. Once it's all mixed up and it's soupy, you're gonna go ahead and tap. It's not about how hard. Like I said, it's just like your foot on the pile. It's like a subtle clap. So it's just like I'm clapping my hands on the bucket. Okay, only for about 10 seconds. Then after we get this layer tapped, we're gonna grab our shovels again. We're gonna add in another layer of dry sand. Now I know you're probably wondering, why are we using this dry sand compared to that wet sand down there? Well, a lot of times when you go to other beaches, not necessarily here in Destin, but other beaches in the world, when you go there, the best sand is actually up closer to the dunes. So the drier the sand, the better it is for sandcastles, okay? So just because the sand's wet doesn't mean it's good for sandcastles. Now we got a whole bunch of dry sand in here again. Water. Can never have too much water. Oh, look, it's boiling. It's boiling. Oh, careful, it's so hot. Not really. That is all that dry sand that I was telling you about. So that's why we mix it. We mix so there's no dry sand. Then once we're good and mixed, verbal encouragements, welcome. Settle down, sand, right? Notice the entire time I'm building this sandcastle, I'm pretty much maintaining water in there. Like I said, water's like a glue to your sandcastle. Even in big professional competitions, they use tons and tons of water, okay? If you have anything floating, you can throw it on out. You don't need that. All right, so we're getting close to the top of our castle, so we're just gonna do one more small layer of dry sand. And then I'm gonna show you a different way to finish this perfectly to the top. A little bit of dry sand, a whole bunch of water. Mix it up good. No dry sand. You're gonna tap it, about 10 seconds. Perfect. Now, you can see here we got a bucket. It's about 2/3 of the way full with water. So now what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna add dry sand to this bucket. And we're gonna use this dry sand to finish off our sandcastle. Look at it disappeared. Isn't that awesome? Magic. It's like sandcastle magic. And then once it drains, once the water drains like that, being that we're done tapping it, that's good that the water drained out because we're all done tapping it. You always want there to be water in there when you're tapping it. Now, ouch. Yeah, that's hard. That ain't going nowhere unless somebody really wants to make it go somewhere. So you can see I have a bucket of water here, and all I'm doing is taking dry sand and adding it to the water to make wet sand. So that's what we're going for here, is a nice big bucket of wet sand. Now you don't want this to be completely sand. You want there to be a little bit more water than sand in here. And that's feeling pretty good. One more handful should do perfect. All right, so now you've seen it's kind of settled out. You can see how there's more water than sand. I don't know if you can see that sand underneath there. So what we're gonna go ahead and do now is use this to finish off our sandcastles. So the first and most important part is to put water in here, because if you just grab wet sand and you stick it in here, there's no bonding agent. And you can see it's two separate layers to your sandcastle. So it's important before you continue forward to pour water in, and you can see it just congeals into one, right? I like that word, congeals, like soaks it all together. Okay. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add more wet sand to this water. Big handfuls, like a shovel, like this. Go to the back, go straight down, 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 and then come across like a big shovel. Big shovel, right? Then you're gonna fill up your bucket in like one handful, and then you can like, yeah, fist bump, right? And just those subtle vibrations, look it. Isn't that satisfying? Tap it until it changes colors. Wizard. Not really. And ta-da, you have a full, solid sandcastle. Now, let's say this isn't tall enough for you. You want a taller sandcastle. That's where this comes into play. So we got a little bit smaller of a bucket that we can stick on top of here. Now, you would think you want to put dry sand, water, mix and tap. But this is a small bucket. This is gonna go really quick, so we're better off using the wet sand here, and it's just gonna make our process a lot more seamless. So I'm gonna go ahead and walk you through how we're gonna fill this up. So the first thing, just push it down. You don't need to put any water in there. Take the biggest handful of wet sand you can grab, put it in the bottom. Another handful, put it in. Now you can see we're looking for about a third of the way up in here. Now that we got it about a third of the way up, water. Our sandcastle magic. Pour in a little water, hand on top, tap, tap. While you still have water, big handfuls of wet sand, whoop. It all congeals into one. Fill it to the top, tap on the sides. Ta-da! And that is how you successfully build a sandcastle. Now after your castle sit here for about a minute or so, you want to let a little bit of that water drain out. You can come in and you can pop off your forms. And they just slide up that easy. The reason why this came out so smooth is because I pre-treat all of my forms before I build a sandcastle. Now, I've been doing this for 7 years. The one thing I found that works the best is WD-40. WD-40 is hands down the best lubricant I've used to spray on the inside of my buckets. I don't use a lot, just a little, psst, psst, and that's about it. 2 little spritz and you're good to go, okay? And you can see just with a little WD-40, once you clean off around the bottom of your buckets and you get your finger underneath, and I just curl my fingers up like that. I literally do a finger curl, like, finger curl. You just finger curl, pop. Ta-da! Comes out perfectly smooth. And like I said, this was after it sat for about 1.5 to 3 minutes. So that is how you build a sandcastle. Tune into this video to learn how to carve this into a sweet looking sandcastle. Catch you guys next time.